knowledge will not equal application. You have it in your awareness doesn't mean you know how to use it. It's the one who does the R&D that has all of those deeper answers in what's practical, what isn't practical, what will work, what won't work. That's one thing that's very critical when it comes to MBAs. Must look at and study the curriculum and see what is the split between the classroom and industry application.
Your career is like a living, breathing organism, and building great careers requires nurturing them with strategic guidance. Hi, my name is Sawan Kapoor, and I'm India's leading career coach, also known as the Career Guy. Welcome to the Career Headquarters. Most comprehensive career podcast on the internet, where I will bring you groundbreaking insights on everything career related. Whether you're seeking a career abroad or wanting to switch industries, whether you are entry level or a mid-career professional or a senior leader, I have seen it all. As an award-winning CEO of one of the largest and most profitable beverage alcohol companies, my career spanned 3 continents, multiple industries, and provided me with an accelerated roadmap to the very top. So if you want to build an exceptional career and 3x your paycheck, this podcast is for you.
Welcome to today's episode of Career Headquarters, the most comprehensive career podcast. Hi Sawan, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm good as well.
What are we talking about today?
So today we're talking about something that a lot of professionals consider, especially when they want to up-level and upskill themselves, and that is the true value of an MBA.
All right.
Interesting topic?
Yes. Debatable topic.
Debatable topic, yes. Okay, so doing an MBA requires a lot of time, money, and effort. So considering that, what factors should one look into before deciding if an MBA is worth it for them?
In some situations, having an MBA is like a prerequisite. And I can tell you, I had a friend, who wanted to work for BCG, Boston Consulting Group. It was his lifelong dream to want to work for them. And this was a company that typically only recruits very top-tier institution MBA graduates. So, in certain situations, it can be a prerequisite, but that is changing. For example, if you look at, a company out of the big 4, like Ernst & Young, today they don't require even a college degree to hire people. So, all of that is in flux at the moment. It's kind of changing. So I can completely understand, that the MBA used to be the gold standard of business education. But today, asking if it's worth it will really require one to look into the curriculum. And it's not just, a stamp on paper, because there's been a McDonaldization of MBAs. It's become a little bit of a commodity. Especially if you look at a country like India, we have lakhs and lakhs of MBAs graduating every year. And while they hold the degree, they hold the certification, the experience they've had in that 2-year journey is what is supposed to prepare them for the real world. So, I can completely understand where that question is coming from, because it's a very significant investment of time and money and all of that. So if it's just going to be a stamp of paper, then probably not. But, if the curriculum is relevant and of value, then naturally, that can really add to your career.
All right. So do you think an MBA helps with career acceleration?
See, the MBA was built as a brand, right? And this brand makes a promise to the person receiving the experience. A brand is nothing more than a feeling that a consumer has about a product or a service. So if you look at a brand like Indigo Airlines, right? The promise that this brand makes is that they'll have lots of flights, they are competitively priced, and their service is on time. That means on time departures and on time arrivals, right? Now, there's a lot of things that they do behind the scenes to facilitate this brand promise, right? Lots of flight means they have a large fleet. Being competitively priced, all of the planes in their fleet are essentially the same plane, right? So parts, maintenance, everything becomes standard. The upkeep becomes standard, which leads to economies of scale. And lots of and on-time arrivals and departures. If you notice, they don't use the major terminals in the cities. They'll use the secondary terminal because the crowd is less. Like if you look at Delhi, they fly into Terminal 2, not Terminal 3. So, all of this has been designed behind the scenes for the brand to be able to honor the promise that it is making to its consumers. Similarly, the MBA is also a brand. And the promise that an MBA was making to, students or working professionals who wanted to gain this certification was that you will get phenomenal pay. You'll get great pay if you get an MBA. You will have a prestigious status because it at one point was a differentiator, and you will get a great support network which leads to opportunities. So that is what it was, the promise that was being made by an MBA. But what has happened is that the curriculum is today inadequate. And, it's too theoretical. Even the case study driven, curriculum, you don't experience that first-hand application in a classroom, right? So it needs industry and institute to partner in a radically different way. So I think this prestigious status part of the brand promise of an MBA, that has weakened, as has the great pay. Maybe the support network is still somewhat there. You do get access to a lot of opportunities. Employers go to premium MBA schools and hire there. But, I think these other two brand promises have kind of diluted themselves. So that is where it's become more of a commodity. So can it create career acceleration? See, a lot of companies are moving away, like I said earlier, even from having the requirement of a college diploma. Google, Hilton, Random House Publishing, Ernst & Young,
IBM.
Hilton, IBM. So there are a number of these very, reputable firms that are moving away from having the requirement of somebody gain structured knowledge. So I think all of this is in development at the moment. So I don't think that it's necessarily true that it creates career acceleration. Maybe at the very top of the pyramid, yes. But from the bottom to the middle of the pyramid, I don't think it is a powerful differentiator anymore. One more thing I will say here, I think if the MBA does not reinvent itself, then within a decade or two, I think it will become irrelevant. I think we'll see an MBA go away unless, we find a way to partner in a very holistic way with industry, like that is educational institutions. Because you see, the first-hand experience of dealing with a problem is where you go through the actual fear, the doubt, the vulnerability, the confusion of thinking through the pros and the cons, the benefits, the advantages, the disadvantages. That doesn't happen in a classroom setting.
Yes.
Right? So, and the MBA, yes, it'll teach you a lot of tips and tricks and tools and techniques, quantitative analysis and, looking at different specializations therein. But, it's not going to give you that first-hand experience. So while institutes have partnered with industry, that partnership needs to be so much more in favor of the industry than in favor of the classroom. So I think that fundamental redesign has not taken place yet. And until that happens, it would be very difficult to say that a candidate coming out of business school is prepared to take on real world challenges. They have knowledge that they can apply to those situations. But because they're applying that knowledge for the first time, it's not a road they've walked before. And it goes back to the dynamic of, if you don't know swimming and it's the first time you're going to a swimming pool and taking a dip, you're not going to be very good at it, right? Even if theoretically you understand that this is the technique and this is the stroke and this is what you're supposed to do, it's going to take some time for you to actually do it, to develop a baseline. So, knowledge will not equal application. You have it in your awareness doesn't mean you know how to use it. It's the one who does the R&D that has all of those deeper answers in what's practical, what isn't practical, what will work, what won't work. That's one thing that's very critical when it comes to MBAs. Must look at and study the curriculum and see what is the split between the classroom and industry application.
All right, makes sense. So, professionals have different reasons for doing an MBA. What, according to you, are the right and wrong reasons to do an MBA?
Because it's a brand, a lot of people feel that, if they don't have this in their arsenal, they are unable to make progress. And that's the beauty of how a brand markets itself, right? So the wrong reason would be to get it as a commodity, to get it as a stamp on a piece of paper. There is a very clear trend in a lot of world-class entrepreneurs who were college dropouts. And that tells us something, right? All of this can be figured out without the formal system of education, right? The right reasons would be to get specialized knowledge and focus in a particular discipline, in a particular function. So, functional knowledge is much harder to gain. Understanding, all of the topics within a subject like finance, right? How to evaluate companies, how to create forecasts and projections. All of that is much more specialized knowledge. It's deeper into the subject. For those reasons, one can understand, because those reasons can also help you open a door to an industry or a function, right? So the point here is to really evaluate the curriculum, as I was talking about earlier. Don't just fall for the marketing of the prestige of the degree or even the institution, right? Functional knowledge will open doors, but that's what it will do. It'll open the door. It won't allow you to go higher in the building or reach the terrace, the CEO's office, if you will. But it will open a door to an area that otherwise may not have been an opportunity for you to engage with. That's where an MBA can help. It can serve as a beautiful career pivot, right? So let's say you're in a misaligned career. It's something that you've lost the passion for. You're not charmed by it anymore, for whatever reasons. And you're looking to switch to upcoming industry that really excites you. This is going to be long-term for you. An MBA in those cases can make sense, because in those cases, it can be a beautiful career pivot that allows you entry into an entirely new career field that otherwise may not have been an option for you.
Do you think there are any alternatives to an MBA that offer similar benefits?
I think the trend that I most want to highlight here is the trend of micro-learning, right? So what the world is finding out is that loading somebody up with a 4-year formal college education or a 2-year MBA is not the best way for somebody to accumulate, learning. And then be expected to use that learning for the rest of your life for it to create an income for you. So that's one trend that I see that's very powerful, and it's taking hold in a very meaningful way. And the second trend is that generalists today are commanding better opportunities than specialists. All right. So earlier, if you look about 10 years ago, specialists were all the rage. The deeper you go into that area or subject is, the greater that, you can monetize it. But today, I think being a senior level generalist, developing your skills to be able to solve a multitude of complicated problems is what is starting to command much more premium worth in the market. So if you look at a subject like I was talking about finance, so there are so many courses available within finance. Finance for non-finance executives, complete financial analyst courses, company evaluation, statement analysis, ratio analysis, value investing, understanding financial markets, budgets, cash flow, management accounting. So there are so many, topics within finance itself. You look at another function like human resources. And again, you have organizational dynamics and culture, you have talent management and remuneration strategies, you have the art and science of recruiting exceptional candidates, performance management, conflict resolution, emotional intelligence, managing work-life balance in a post-pandemic world. So there are so many topics available within a discipline, and the same is true for marketing and sales and operations and every other function. So I think the number one comment that we get in our 2-day live implementation training is, how this is more practical than an MBA. And see, I'll be very clear. We are not a Harvard or a Stanford, far from it. We, from a brand perspective, in terms of awareness, influence, strength of the brand, we are not,
Yes.
the brand of a big educational institute. But I think in terms of an ROI, I would be ready to take on any of them head on. For the amount of money that an individual has to invest and the return that they get from it. In fact, one of my students, put it in this way. This was a gentleman who did not have a master's degree. He was working with JP Morgan, and he used the program to get into HSBC. He was in the IT function, and he, went from a salary of 45 lakhs to a salary of 85 lakhs. And then he used the program a second time, to cross the crore club. Now, that kind of a return from making an investment that is 1/50th or 1/60th the investment of an MBA, in terms of money and also in terms of time. I mean, all of this happened in less than 90 days. The first jump from 40 to 80 some lakhs happened in less than 90 days. So there is a lot more ROI, that street smart, practical education can offer you, that does not come from a classroom setting, because our entire, USP, if you will, is aimed at helping you apply the knowledge. So we work and support you as you build and develop your career in the battlefield of life. Not just teach you the knowledge in a classroom. We do that, we do put it in your awareness, but then there is continued support as you take on every single opportunity and work through it. The application, the interviewing, the salary negotiation, all of that. So that has been the reason that, we experience the kind of results that we have been able to generate. So, I think, in fact, the top 3 comments that we get is, 1, you're much more practical than an MBA. 2, I wish I had met you 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago, depending on, if you're talking to a mid-career professional or a senior leader. And the third one that I get is, I never thought that it would be possible for me to get a 2x salary or a 3x salary or, some multiple like that. So, that gives me a lot of warmth in my heart that, it was a system that can directly be leveraged regardless of what industry or what function or how many years of experience you have, in being able to create acceleration in a short period of time, meaningfully raising your standard of life, your quality of life. Because most people work to provide a better life for the people who are dependent on them. So it's a very heartwarming feeling to be able to play some role, in that journey for them.
So we're almost at the end of this episode. But before the last question, if there's a professional listening to this who wants to understand how to start a career journey with you in order to accelerate their career, what can they do?
Come attend the masterclass. It's bit.ly/powerupyourcareer. That's the link. Or follow us on social media. It's in several of our social media links. If you go to our Instagram handle, which is @Sawan.Kapoor, you'll find a link to attend the masterclass there. You can follow us on our YouTube channel where this will be posted. You can follow us on our
LinkedIn.
group in Dream Jobs Mastermind on Facebook. So engage with us, and if you go through that, then you'll get or just email us at connect@sawankapoor.com, and we'd be happy to have you there.
All right. Do you think an MBA can make you a better leader?
Yes and no. I mean, yes, from the perspective that it gives you knowledge on the subject of leadership and a lot of functional knowledge as well. But the application of that knowledge is not going to happen in the classroom, right? And the MBA doesn't really have, the support required when you're on the journey. When you're in an MBA, you're focused for those 2 years in gaining that knowledge, right? You do have some experiential learning. Lots of institutes are doing that. But like I said, not anywhere near to what it is required. So, the road to career development is paved with personal development. And leadership requires you to look inwards, right? It is how you respond to the difficulties in your life that awaken and polish your leadership. So, calmness is required not in the classroom when you're learning about how calmness helps. It's required in front of the challenge or the obstacle that you're facing in the reality of life. Empathy, which is another quality associated with leadership, it's required not just in the classroom, it's required in,
Yes.
when you're actually dealing with somebody who's acting in a way that you don't understand, acting rudely or unprofessionally, and you have to find that empathy within you that eventually this is just a cry for help, even though if this person doesn't know how to express it, right? So that's where empathy is required. That's where, the ability to groom someone or train someone, into the culture of an organization, it has to come to life in the battlefield of life, Feedback, learning how to take feedback is one of the most critical tools that anyone is going to have on this journey of leadership. For their colleagues and their juniors and seniors to be able to tell them, what can they do better? Because there may be things that the world is able to see about you that you're not able to see, your blind spots. Being able to deal with things that you know about yourself that you don't want the world to know, your hidden self, or things that neither you know about yourself or neither does the world know about you, your unknown self. So being able to process all of these things is what is related to making you a better leader, growing your awareness, because this fundamentally allows you to reinvent yourself, because what has brought you here is not going to take you further. The challenges going further are going to increase in complexity and scope. That's the nature of progress. The higher you go up in the pyramid, the tougher the climb becomes. And growth only happens on the boundary of support and challenge. So failure plays an evolutionary role in teaching you how to reinvent yourself continually, right? It's only when your muscle is failing that it's going to grow. So failure is not your enemy, and it's not the opposite of success. Failure is what gives meaning to success. And all of that doesn't happen in the classroom. So yes, from a perspective that it gives you the knowledge, but in that room, when you talk about such profound subjects like leadership, it's a very feel-good environment. It's very easy to aspire to and relate with and have a debate on and talk and interact with your professor or teachers or colleagues or the people available to you in that environment. But the application is going to happen at a time where you're least prepared and everything shows up all at once, overwhelming you. And that is where you have to find the ability to take that first step to say that, you know what, I'm going to treat this situation as a leader. I'm going to take a leading role. And that may require me to do a lot of listening. That may require me to express a lot of empathy. That may require me, to do a lot of soul searching in how I could have set this up better. And all of that, will happen when you decide to take that first step in reality and not just learn about it in a book or a classroom. So can it make you a better leader? Yes, it can arm you with the knowledge. And there is value to bringing, such things systematically into your awareness. But that is where I think the coaching industry beautifully fills the gap, because it's not only arming you with the knowledge that educational institutions do, but it helps you implement the knowledge in the actual battlefield of life. So can it? Yes, it can bring that into your awareness, but I think the coaching industry does a better job of it today. And that's what shows up in the ROI. So, you can't argue with the reality of what is occurring, because if you argue with the reality, you will lose 100% of the time. So that's just, my thoughts on this in a nutshell.
Okay, very well put.
Thank you.
Did you ever consider doing an MBA during
I
the early
did,
stages
yes.
of career?
I did.
Okay.
And when I considered doing an MBA, I came to the understanding that at that time my career was going through a rocky patch. And I came to the understanding that I'm running away from a problem that is actually an opportunity to grow. And it took me some time, because it was very appealing to aspire to, hey, I'm going to be an MBA. And, I was applying to all top tier schools. I had the credentials. I had the experience to get into, some great institutes. But I did not go for it, because I came to this realization that if I'm able to power through this situation, then, the learning that I'll achieve here will be far greater than what, even a top tier institution will be able to provide. I do have a master's level degree, and the way it happened was that, I went for a study abroad while in my undergraduate degree. Okay. And I went for a study abroad to the UK from the US, and I was taking all master's level classes for the equivalency to match. So in this, I had accumulated sufficient credits that I was just one semester away from getting a master's degree as well. So I said, it's just one semester worth of effort. And I was on a scholarship, so, I was able to get all of that education for free, or not at my own cost of money, of time, yes. And then, with just being one semester away, I said, let me make the effort and get this credential. So, in another 4 months, I had that degree, and it's a Master's of Science.
All right. Thank you so much. See
Most
you in the
welcome.
next episode.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Career Headquarters, the most comprehensive career podcast dedicated to building exceptional careers. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share this with someone you think would benefit from the ideas and the insights shared on this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Spotify, Apple, Google, Overcast, Castro, or Breaker. If you want to learn more about building an extraordinary career for yourself, I invite you to come attend my free Power Up Your Career live workshop. In this workshop, I will teach you the step-by-step process of landing your dream job in less than 90 days. The link to register is in the description below, and I will see you live at the workshop.